Fearless Flight crew for another episode of Fearless Flight Live on this 11th of April, 2023. Welcome, everybody, and hope you had a good week. Hope you're thinking about flying, getting ready to fly, recovering from flying, or deciding you're never going to try it again, whatever. But the last one is what we're here for. We're here for all of you who, any of you who has a fear of flying, and maybe some of you who know somebody's a fear of flying. And the last category of followers seems to be people that just like listening to us banter about aviation and in the airline industry from time to time. So whatever your reason, we're glad to have you here. I'll see if I can master my slides. Okay, that's good.
Well,
we have what's that?
Oh, while you were mastering your slides, Christine, big shout out to our Birds of a Feather group. Christine flew from Providence to Cancun not that long ago, and well,
that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about tonight too. So,
well, then there we go. Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah. What I wanted to do was just highlight the Birds of a Feather group, and then we're going to look at the Birds of a Feather on site tonight, read some of the comments that was one of them, and talk about the benefits of joining that group. We're 1,300 plus now, probably pushing 1,400, and we really appreciate all of you, as do most of your peers out there, because people find a lot of relief going over there. The main thing is to find out that you're not the only person with a fear of flying. So it can be a real benefit. Oh, don't do that. Come on. That shows the group, doesn't it?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So there's the link. I'm sure Dieter will put it in the minutes there. That is our Birds of a Feather group, and oh gosh, I do not like PowerPoint. Man, oh man, oh man. Complain. It just has a mind of its own.
It only does that when we're live.
Yeah, just like the airplane. Just like the airplane, right, Eric?
Yeah, only when you're taking a
the things you never want to hear your flight crew say when you're looking at the computer is, "What's it doing now?"
What's it doing now? Or, geez, I've never seen that before.
Nah, me either. So tonight, I want to talk a little bit about medications. And if you use, the question is, do you use medications? If you do, put yes or no, put that in the comments there. And if you got any comments about that, we'd like to talk about that a little bit. That's something that comes up. People feel guilty about it sometimes, and they confess to that. But we'll give you a little bit of information to go along with that, and we'll look at the Birds of a Feather tonight. We'll check in with the rest of the crew here and see if anybody's got anything of interest that happened to them last week. And the main thing I wanted to advertise tonight is this is for you. It's you make our job easier. And you get more benefit out of it if you can feed us questions and comments and things that we can comment on, because that's the main purpose of this. We don't call it really a blog, but it ends up being a blog because we have the recordings of the sessions up and posted after each week. So if you got any questions out there, any experiences, you're getting ready to fly, you want to know, some answers to questions, please feel free to leave a comment down there. Even if you're watching the replay, it's always good. We'll go back and look through those. And if we don't answer them on the spot online, we'll answer them in the next week's show, typically. So with that, I want to just talk a little bit about medications. There was a Stanford study done years ago. It's the only one that I've ever read about, and what they did. The typical medications, there are two families of this. One is and the most popular is the benzodiazepines, and the way they work is they work on your amygdala, and that's the same place that alcohol takes effect. So it's these little almond shaped and sized bits of brain just inside your ears, and it's called amygdala because that means almond in Greek. And they are the kind of like the body's smoke or the brain's smoke detector. They do much more than that, but that's one way to look at them. And like a smoke detector, they can't tell whether it's burnt toast or a raging fire. So that's where your judgment comes in and your education, and that's why the first step in the Fearless Flight method is to help you learn more about educate yourself about fear, flying, and psychology. But the way the amygdala works is it kind of dulls, or medications rather, it kind of dulls the effects of your amygdala. And some people, that's good for some people, and other people it leaves them feeling hungover and for some people one of the side effects is it can actually increase your anxiety. And the biodiazepine family includes things like Xanax, Klonopin, Ativan, begins with a V. It's one of the oldest ones. Valium. Yeah. Okay. And there is another category of medications that people sometimes take, and those are the beta blockers. And those are prescribed to people that have heart palpitations. And in both cases, you want to go to a doctor to have those prescribed. And sometimes the family doctor does it more out of a service to you as a customer than I think really well thought out. So be careful. And most doctors, fortunately, they do recommend that you try it before you get on the airplane. Some of the worst cases I've heard is when people had the medications, they used them without having prior experience with them, and then got on and had a bad experience on the airplane. Should you take them? At least if you're so anxious that you can't get on the airplane, I recommend taking them small doses, and they're relatively short acting. Despite what everybody says, like any medication, they do have the possibility of becoming addicted to it, and so you want to give some concern to that or consideration. My goal for everybody out there is, if you need to take medications to start with, take a low dose and use that so that you have some chance to practice some of the skills, the tools, strategies, and techniques that we talk about, and then eventually wean yourself off of them. And let's see what else. The study that was done out of Stanford, they had two groups, a control group and another group, and a blind study, so nobody knew what they were getting. They gave everybody a small pill, and the control group had a placebo, and the target group was prescribed Xanax, and they put them on a flight. And as you might hope for, 75% of the people who got the Xanax in the targeted group had lower anxiety. And they came back sometime later, and they gave everybody another placebo or another bit of medication. Turns out they were all placebos this time. And what happened is the people who had the Xanax on the first test suffered about half of them had panic attacks on the second time when they were without that. The others had never received any medication either before or after, did better in both cases. So that's something that's in the 201 course too, the details behind that study. We have a section there on should you take medications or whatnot. Checking in with everybody, other than your computer problems, Dieter, anything going on in your neck of the woods up there?
Well, other than computer, I'm sure there's a lot more going on. One of the things that the Toronto airport, along with the Canadian authorities, is going to be testing is how we all have to turn off our devices at takeoff and landing. Well, in the European Union, they will start, I think, in May, doing away with that. And in Canada, there are also some flights you don't have to actually turn your devices off anymore. And
okay, so are you to clarify, are you saying that they are not going to require the airplane mode, or they're not going to be
correct?
Okay.
So you can leave your phone on the way you
okay.
know, you have it when you not in an airplane.
Okay, yeah, and I'm not surprised to see that coming. I just saw revisited an article. If you all may remember, we talked about this toward the end of the year or first part of this year. There was some to do out there about 5th generation Wi-Fi,
Yes, yeah. 5G.
Anyway, about that affecting the radar altimeter, the radio altimeter on the airplane, and possibly the display on approaches. And the airlines were lobbying. They had actually, all the CEOs had testified in Congress that they wanted the FAA to press the, or they wanted Congress to pressure the electronics companies, the AT&T, Verizon, all that, to delay the, or to avoid putting towers in close proximity, whatever that meant, of major airports and all that. And so I assume that they were successful in doing that. And that's probably further evidence, the fact like in Toronto, they're not even going to have you turn it on the airplane mode.
And Ron, you brushed on it right there. The problem does not occur with the little cell phone transmitting that's in your hand. Signal's too weak. The problem occurs from the ground relay.
Ground transmitter. Yeah.
Towers. As long as they have those away from the airports, away from the approach path and shielded, that's okay. The people with the phones in the back, that's not part of the problem. And they've proven that.
Yeah. In electronics in general, it affects a couple areas. Like, years ago, when we were in the earlier years of aviation, we had a compass signal amplifier. A lot more of our navigation was dependent upon having a magnetic compass reading in the airplane. So what they did traditionally is they put the compass out in one of the wingtips away from all the other things. Because if you remember from 7th grade science, when you run a current through a wire and you have anything metal there, or a compass around it, it can cause the compass to point to the electronic field or the magnetic field rather than magnetic north. And so that's always been a concern with electronics on the airplane. The reality of it is we got so damn many wires running into the cockpit, it would be hard to imagine that your little cell phone could ever have been a threat in the back. But nonetheless, we have always erred on the side of caution. And now, even before all this, we don't have to worry about that as much anymore because we have a lot of alternatives to this. We have GPS, which is one thing. We have inertial reference systems, and neither of those rely on the magnetic compass. So it's never been the threat that sometimes it's been written up in the paper. And I don't know of a single case in my 50 years in aviation of anybody ever documenting that the 16-year-old back there listening to his favorite stereo has caused some kind of disruption or erroneous display in the cockpit. So, right. And I always figured, go ahead.
But Ron, what you brought up, exactly right. The magnetic compass is still required. And there's a little card underneath. They power up all the airplane systems. And in the Navy or on a ship, you call it swinging the compass because that thing needs to be deadly accurate. And it says, if you're pointing at magnetic north, where are you actually pointing? Where's the correction factor? So it'll have that for like every 60 degrees or every 30 degrees, a correction factor and a correction factor with the airplane powered so that you know what the correction factor is to apply to the magnetic compass should you read it, should you want to see such a thing, which is referred to as swinging the compass.
And that's because magnetic north is not at the North Pole, it's off to the side. And if we're doing a deep dive, it's changing. So if you're around in 100,000 years, it's sliding south, isn't it?
I believe so. They have a rate for it.
So my question is for you gentlemen who know about all this kind of stuff, if they allow that, are we talking about making phone calls? The aircraft?
I don't think so.
So
I've not seen anything about that. This is just some people are still under the impression you got to turn them off, but I don't think
we're talking about airplane mode versus
exactly.
Yeah. So that's my question is whether or not the airplane mode going not requiring the passengers to turn airplane mode on. Whether or not
it may be an airline thing, if it's not a safety.
Well, the thing that when they came out in the States, I don't know how many years has that been now? Or I've been retired 15, so it's probably at least 20, 25 years since they came out with the airplane mode, or where you could listen to it. Because originally when they came out with, when we the expansion of smartphones, we couldn't turn them on. You had to turn them off when you're on the airplane.
Right.
And I always figured I had some 16-year-old kid listen to his playlist on the phone anywhere, somewhere.
Well,
in the airplane.
they're doing that now because they got Wi-Fi. Everybody's got Wi-Fi on the planes, and we have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, right. And that's living proof that the airline, it's no longer an issue. But
Right,
but to
Mike,
your,
from our perspective, at some point, because we have heard that there is a move from whomever to try to allow calls being made,
yeah, the last move was overwhelmingly.
I mean, if that happens,
Because nobody wants to listen to the guy next to you having an argument with his wife. And that's why.
Which kind of dovetails into Flight Attendant's Corner whenever I get a chance to talk about that. So, yeah.
And to Jim.
So speaking of Flight Attendant's Corner, it's important to listen to the announcements, right, Diane?
And that's
otherwise you'll be like
and that was
Glenn
gonna
on
be my
flight
little-
1549, when the first thing they did after they hit the water was everybody grabbed for the seat back
Right.
chart in front of them and said, "Oh my God, what am I supposed to do?"
What am I supposed to do? And that's my comment for this evening. And that is, I had my last leg. I just got back today from a 4-day trip, and my last leg, it really came home more than usual. We had a couple passengers in first class, and they were talking very loudly, and they were talking at the beginning and kind of partially through our safety demonstration. As the forward, I'm doing the seat belts and demonstrating the oxygen mask, and the aft flight attendant is making the announcement. And these individuals were talking so loudly that I wound up having to go to them and asking them, please, if they could just pause their conversation. Because even though people who fly a lot, they've heard the demonstration announcement 1,000 times, or even if they're very comfortable with it, they just kind of assume that they don't have to pay attention. But what they don't appreciate is that there are a lot of people around them who might not know, who might be fearful flyers, who might be new flyers, who really do want to listen and need to listen to the safety announcement and watch the safety demonstration and pay attention. And so we do ask our passengers to stop what they're doing and just kind of pay attention to the flight attendant. And so that is one of the concerns, obviously, with people start talking on their phones. But there's also, within the 4 years that I've been flying, the advent and the ubiquitous use of earbuds. Everybody gets on the plane almost with earbuds in. And so they're not paying attention to those things. And so we get questions during the course of the flight that we've already answered and we've addressed in our announcements. And it becomes repetitive, and sometimes that distracts us from our other jobs, our other responsibilities, to have to answer the same thing over and over again that was given to everybody at the beginning or even during the flight, and certainly safety things if we're going to be getting some turbulence because they're not paying attention, they don't have their seatbelts buckled, all of those kinds of things. And so it's just a little thing that if you, and certainly with our fearful flyers using the listening to
harmonizer.
The harmonizer, and that's wonderful, and I applaud that. But please use that after you've had the opportunity to listen and watch the demonstrations and listen to the flight attendants giving those safety announcements.
And if you've got noise canceling devices, you can turn the noise canceling off too.
Right.
And you could still hear
whatever you have to do so that you can actually pay attention to what's going on.
And if you are lucky enough to be on Diane's flight and she comes along with a pop quiz and she'll ask you one of the technical questions about the pre-flight briefing and you get it right, she has a wad of $100 bills that she carries, and you will be the beneficiary of a $100 bill. A crisp.
I will give you an extra package of pretzels.
Yeah, she'll wrap the pretzel in the $100 bill. So.
If you got somehow points for answering questions, I guarantee you, more people will pay attention. And Michelle is, Michelle's saying that it would be torture to have other people talk on the phones.
Oh,
You know,
Yeah, that was the general consensus. The
Yeah.
American Pastors Association said
right.
nix,
Pretty
ixnay
much
on
that.
the
On
cell
that.
phone calls.
Yeah.
They don't
And
do
I
that.
have one
Listen,
last thing that has nothing to do with the paying attention part, but just it became very, reminded me today when we left, we were at Oklahoma City, where it was beautiful in the mid 70s, and we got back to Phoenix and it was a balmy 95, and it was getting bouncy. And so those of you who are going to be flying out of Phoenix or out of Vegas or any place where it's hot, this is the normal event because of the hot air currents that are coming up. So takeoff and landing might be a little bit more bouncy. So just be aware. It's no big deal. It's just that hot air, and it's 100 degrees and that sort of thing.
we don't recommend it as a primary strategy, but it is a consideration flying earlier in the mornings if you're
Yes,
leaving out of Phoenix or if you're landing in Phoenix.
Definitely.
But when we get into the summer, it's hot
Yeah.
everywhere, and in the summer, the heat reflecting off the Earth's surface makes the bumps go a little bit higher. So in the summer, you get bounced around up until 10, 15,000 feet out of Phoenix, whereas in the winter, it'll either be calm or maybe only up to 3,000 feet or something like that. So we're definitely getting into the warm
Ron,
weather. Yep.
there's a question about that I don't really know for a lot of different American carriers, but the question is the safety briefing for flights, is that online now? And I assume like the overseas flights, you actually have that.
You mean it's pre-recorded?
Pre-recorded. Yeah.
Some Southwest does not, of course. Yeah, but it depends on the airplane and the airline. But when you go overseas, they're pre-recorded now, and they've actually made it more interesting. You can't play the entertainment system when that's on,
Right.
so it is a little bit more oriented to that, and they use some humor in it. The one on I remember the one on American and the one on British Airways. They recorded them in a studio. They had a whole cast, a player of I assume crew members, flight attendants and whatnot. So it was much better done. And that's an upgrade from when they first came out with the automation and they just turned on a recording on the airplane. That was the worst. Gee, mini Christmas. It's like mini, and then that's all, folks. And nobody paid attention to that. But you will want to know, any of you that watched the show with Glenn Carlson who was on the Miracle on the Hudson, flight 1549, you recall that when they hit the water, the first thing people did is they looked for the card because they realized that they might need something out of there. And so the other thing, since they did lose both engines, it takes just a little bit of time. But if we lose all extra power, the battery will kick on because we still have power on the airplane. It's called the battery bus. And when that puppy kicks on, especially if it's at night, it gets very dark in there, and you'll see the aisle lighting. It'll light up the floor, and that's all. That's so you can find the exits.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, okay, let's Kristen Dieter started to talk about that, and Kristen did do a post in here, and she says, a quick follow-up to my last post Saturday morning. She was a little bit anxious about that. She went from Providence to Cancun, says it was amazing. She used every tool Captain Ron taught me. Holy cow, that's a lot of tools. And I don't think my anxiety went above a 2 from start to finish. The highest anxiety occurred in the days leading up to the flight. Very typical. Anticipatory anxiety is what gets you all. And when I've been coaching here lately, I've been focusing more and more on that. And what the goal of the Fearless Flight method is to educate you so that now a lot of the things that you would not have any doubts about what's going to happen if you were the pilot or to some degree the flight attendants, because you could anticipate them. When you get in your car, you don't have to, when you go around a curve that you're going to lean into the turn a little bit because you're going to, if you're on a flat highway, it's going to throw you towards the outside of the turn a little bit. But in an airplane, the sensations are what trigger most people. And you can't, if you don't have much experience and you haven't flown that much, you can't internalize them like you can experiences in a car. So anticipatory anxiety is the essence of the problem. You just don't know what's coming. And so when Kristen talks about that, leading the days leading up to this, that's the biggest worry. Call us, get a coaching session. Come on, talk to the group here in the Birds of a Feather. By the way, I'm reading from the Birds of the Feather here to encourage you, if you've not joined, to please consider that. It says the captain kept the seatbelt sign on the entire way because he said it was bumpy. That's more and more common. The airlines are taking fewer and fewer chances of turning that seatbelt on. The downside of that is people do get impatient, and sooner or later people have to pee. So what can you say? If you got to pee, you got to pee, and get up and just do it quickly and come back to your seat as fast as possible, because the only way people get hurt in an airplane is in turbulence that catches them off guard.
And I personally disagree with guys doing that. I think, well, I'll just leave it on all the time.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Because human nature, there's going to be physiological needs, as you pointed out, and if guys do that, but then that doesn't help the people in the back make any kind of decision.
Now, Eric and I are in perfect agreement on that. If you leave that sign on the whole time, then people start to abuse it, especially people who have been on there over and over again. It's hard enough keeping them in their seats out there. So pay attention to it. She had a little delay. It was a perfectly ordered flight. We planned that for her, so she'd get a little bit of growth in that. She had to sit in the runway for about 20 minutes. And she said it used to be one of her biggest fears because she's claustrophobic. And she listened to the harmonizer, did the 1 through 10 breathing that we've been talking about in the last several months here. And she said her anxiety at that point was 0. I like to say a 1 because 0 is dead to me. You got to have some activity, or otherwise that flatline's not good. So anyway. And she said, honestly, seeing the water flying into Cancun, it was beautiful. So that means she's looking out the window. She's feeling pretty frisky. She looked at her mom and daughter. They got to sit in the front with her. She couldn't stop smiling and had tears. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Wow. She couldn't believe she was there with her entire family. It's a memory that she'll have forever. She's grateful to us, me and the crew and all that. And I tell people when they write me stories like this, do not blame us for your success. You were the one that did it, made it happen. Okay. We'll take credit for the things that we did to answer your question stuff, but you're the one that stepped forward. And the sad thing is 90% of the people out there that have a fear of flying will never even try to get over it. So it's unfortunate. So anyway, so that's a highlight of and that's available for everybody. One of the last things I wanted to do formally here was, if you haven't done anything with this and you're thinking about what to do and you want to kind of figure out what should I do to start with, the coaching is a great place to start. Okay, hold it, stand by, folks, because my PowerPoint decided to have a mind of its own again. And here we go, 1, 2, and
is it there?
3, and here we go, 4, 2.
All right, in the meantime, I posted a Virgin America's safety video. Jim Duke actually pointed that out, and that is a bona fide music video, actually. It's really cool.
Oh,
cool.
It's in the chat.
Okay, so if you look up here, there are, let me go to the slide just before this. There's three levels of the coaching thing that you can go. You can do a premium economy, which is $37 a month. If you just want to try the next coaching call, which is going to be next Thursday, April 20th at 6:30 p.m. Pacific and 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Just it's $47 to just try us out for one time. But you can quit at any time, so you might as well try the cheapest one there. Anyway, premium for $37 a month, you get those benefits there, first class and lifetime for $9.99. And the reason I wanted to feature this is take a look in the thing. I think one of the best kept secrets that we have here is the first class at $57 a month. You get a number of other things, but the biggest thing you get is you get the flight kit, the Fearless Flight Kit. So if you don't have the Fearless Flight Kit, this is a great way to get it. Because you're going to get it as soon as you sign up for this membership there, and you can. It's hard to be better prepared than if you join us for a coaching call and you have the Fearless Flight Kit. For years, that was the biggest thing that we had to offer at Fearless Flight, And I've had people, going back 20 years when I first introduced this, that said, that saved my fanny getting on an airplane. I hadn't flown and was really anxious about it. So give it a look there, and consider joining us next Thursday night, and bring your questions. Like I said, the classes and the coaching sessions really are about you. It's so much easier. I love coaching calls because people come in and they have questions to answer, and they don't realize. One of the feedbacks that I got from Colette last week, she did a 15-minute coaching call, and she had purchased the harmonizer, but other than that, that's the only interaction we had. She was totally taken aback by the fact that I could answer questions and talk about things. And one of her comments was she had no idea that she could talk about things. In other words, she didn't even know that the things that we ended up talking about would even help or be available. I've said that overcoming your fear of flying is kind of like trying to hug a cloud. It's hard there's no substance to it, and it provides kind of a similar dilemma to losing weight. If you want to lose weight, you can't stop eating, you got to eat. And if you want to get over your fear of flying, you got to change the way you think, but you can't stop thinking. So the things that we've talked about, particularly when Kristen talked about how her anticipatory anxiety really much took a day off, except for just maybe a couple of days leading up to that. So do something, whether it's with us or somebody else, do something, and don't give up. You went to all this trouble to find us on the internet. Don't give up, and keep coming back, keep hanging in there. And we can't wait to help you out in whatever way we can. We've got new and bigger things coming out. We're adding improvements all the time to the 201 course. So it's a dynamic course, it's growing. And with a monthly coaching membership, you get access. If you ever had membership in access to the 201 course, you're going to get it on an ongoing basis. And I would just bite off a year and say, I'm going to keep my head in the game for a year, and get yourself out there and confident. So, okay. Any other questions, comments, Stuart?
Well, I do want to indirectly answer a question, and that is the topic for our April 20th webinar is going to be flying over water and long flights, what to do before and how to deal with all the time you have on your hands during those flights. And we're out, I think, Ron, you said that Glenn Carson from the Miracle.
We're going to have Glenn back as a special guest. Yep, for sure.
Agreed to participate, and our group coaching calls are a little different from our weekly live show, in the sense that we really take a deep dive into I'm gonna say more the emotional side. We're going to have a lot of information, obviously, because it's flying over water and there's ETOPS and all that stuff. But I do want to remind all of you, including you, Shally, as well, because there was cool thread going on with Shally and Don. The pain in your brain is not about the plane, and I can't stress that enough, even though we just talked airplanes for over half an hour. But ultimately, fear of flying has nothing to do with the plane, and so Shally, if you can hang in there, it might take another couple years, whatever it takes for you. One way you definitely improve your chances is by staying connected and by engaging on a deeper level than even just the Fearless Flight live show. Come to the group coaching webinars and such, where we look at what's actually underneath as well.
Yep. Fear of flying is a perception of something that either appears life-threatening or you'd rather die than experience it. Okay. And that covers the people who just have claustrophobia, combined with feelings of utter helplessness. That's also a definition for trauma, and it's the prescription for a miserable thing. But because it's a perception, that gives it away. It takes place in your head and not on the airplane. Yep. airplanes, they do things and they bounce and, you know, and things like that, but they don't crash. They don't crash. And whether you're worried about confinement or bouncing around, you're going to be okay. So we emphasize not worrying, not going to turbulence.com or weather.com and trying to go to your Ouija board and pick a flight that doesn't have any bounces forecast for it, and just getting used to moving your attention back to where you have it under your control. So come back. We hope to see you next Tuesday, and then if you've never been, consider trying one of the coaching sessions next Thursday, April 20th. Okay. So thanks.
I have 30 seconds, Ron.
Yep.
Everybody, I see your comments on YouTube, but I can't respond there, and I'm missing talking to you. And it's as soon as I made lots of promises before, but the Facebook account I was using got hacked. And when Dieter gets his new computer, which should be soon, he's using one that he got out of a dumpster. So he has very limited technical capacity. It's amazing that he can stay on for 30 minutes even. And I can get that done. I can reply to you. But I see everybody greeting you and all my regulars. Thank you very much. And Jim Duke brought up one point about the cell phones. When you inevitably forget to turn your cell phone off of airplane mode, throw it in the seat back pocket. In about 1.5 states, it will be dead, and you'll show up in East Overshoe, Wisconsin, right, for your brother-in-law to pick you up, and it will be dead. So there's a hazard there, and it's not to the airplane. And he brought that point up. The cell phone will keep trying to attach to cell towers, and while you're going past them at 8 to 9 miles per minute, it can't do it, but it won't quit trying until there's no battery.
Yep.
But thanks for comments, and I see them all, and it's nice to see all you guys.
Okay, so thanks to the group. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Diane. Thanks, Dieter. And thanks to you all again. We'll see you next week for another episode of Fearless Flight Live. Have a great week, everybody.